Welcome back to Stream It. Today we have two comedies, which is fun. We have Silicon Valley, and then we also have The Good Place. And then we're gonna balance it all off by talking about Stephen King at the end. Don't get too happy around here. So yeah, we can dive right into Silicon Valley, which is on HBO. Do you wanna?
Yes.
This
This is a great show.
Yes, I love this show.
Oh, you're going to give us a rundown.
Yeah, so basically it is about Richard, this computer engineer type person, software developer or something like that. And he works at a big company, which I think is supposed to kind of be like Facebook. But the funny thing is they also, it's like in the real world. So they make mention to these real companies, Facebook, Twitter. Right. You wrote down that at the beginning they show MySpace, and then does the balloon deflate or something? Something like that happens, like because MySpace is gone. But it's and he comes up with this compression software algorithm that like things I don't even really know like the whole nuts and bolts, but like stuff downloads faster. It's just something that you want. Like you want to run your software through it, but that's like getting way too into it. But it's about him developing this, and he works for the big company and then leaves and finds out like, wow, I have the fastest compression algorithm ever. And he starts up his company called Pied Piper. It's a very funny scene I think we're going to look at. And the whole thing is about how the ups and downs of the company, trying to go through like getting different video companies or whatever to use their stuff. And they work in a incubating house?
Incubator.
Incubator, yeah.
I think that might be a self-proclaimed name.
Yeah, where this guy, Ehrlich, who is hysterical, he lets everyone work and live in their house, his house. He made money off a company called Avion.
That's right.
He drives a car around that says Avion on it. And it's just, basically, it's them. It's Richard, Ehrlich, who just doesn't really work for the company, two programmers, Guilfoyle, who is just really funny because he like worships the devil and all that kind of thing, and he played
very sarcastic.
last week we kind of touched on Freaks and Geeks, was it 2 weeks ago? He was a character in Freaks and Geeks, and then there is Dinesh, who is played by Kumail. What's his name? Does it start with an H?
I don't remember.
He was in the Big Sick.
Yeah.
And so he those two, they have like a love-hate bromance.
Yes.
And it's hysterical. They hate each other, but at the same time they're best friends. And then there's a couple other characters like the eccentric Hooli head who's just insane.
What is Gavin?
Gavin
something.
Bell?
It's Bell. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't do our research. Yeah.
There's a lot to it. It's a complicated.
But it's hysterical. It's on HBO, so it's not, so they get away with anything.
Yeah.
But I mean, any streaming site you probably can now. It's not like but it's not like Parks and Rec or The Office where you have that network TV limitations and.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love the premise of the show where it's, takes place in Silicon Valley. They have their little startup that they're trying to grow, and it's just hilarious that it's around this like silly little algorithm that they like. I mean, the way they put it, display it, it's like, I don't know, it's unique that would be like a huge tech revolution if you could compress huge files down to like nothing, and how they're like trying to roll out this information and bring it to the market, and like all the different like hurdles you have to go through with like competing and funding and all this.
Right.
So it's a very funny premise, and it's a cool insight into that like world where you don't really see it. You see all the tech come out, the Twitter and Facebook, and you see all this stuff, but you don't know kind of like some of the origin or how it starts, and this is like bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, it's a funny look at how like a company, a startup, like the three of them, Pied Piper is just three programmers really, against Hooli, which is this massive Amazon, Facebook-like corporation.
Right.
But the huge corporation is trying to catch up with them. That's what the whole premise is, and they can send all these resources, but the three guys that are just like hysterical together.
It's also making kind of like a mockery of some of that corporate like world, which is really funny. Like they're trying to get bought out, and they put up the fights and the different like avenues they could go down with the company, and some of the hurdles they have to overcome. And it's pretty funny, like premise. So.
It's a funny underdog story.
Yeah.
About people who are like unprepared for success.
Exactly. Unprepared for success was the perfect way to put it.
Right. And then all the characters, as you go down that road, you've got these just like pretty much like brainiac geeks that are like struggling to make ends meet, and Ehrlich's just like a knucklehead in like a robe walking around his house, like that's all. He's got this incubator business going where he's trying to cash in on just like a percentage of other people's ideas, which is like ridiculous. And then the other guys they're super smart, but they still have no like.
Richard is a perfect character because I think in school, like college and everything, we used to talk about this. We could pick out the computer science kids like just by talking to them. You could say like, "Oh, your major is computer science." Richard's socially awkward, doesn't know how to handle situations, but being a super genius he's played so well.
Oh yeah.
It's so great. And then Jared, I think, might be the funniest character, who is
he comes in and tries to help manage.
The manager, and he like really sets him up with like a business manager,
plan
basically.
And everything,
but he is so funny.
Yeah.
He's hysterical.
He has such blind confidence in Richard. That's just like
he
ridiculous.
was Gabe in The Office.
Yeah.
It's so great.
So I have a clip that kind of goes perfect with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can take a look at that.
Sure, it wasn't easy to find clips on this.
It was not. I had to cut like 2 seconds off of this one.
Not great news. We love the name Pied Piper. It's a classic fairy tale.
Well, I looked it up. It's about a predatory flautist who murders children in a cave.
It has all that going for it, Richard, and I still hate it.
Richard, if we are going to change the name, we need to do it now. Names stick. My name's only Jared because Gavin called me that on my first day. My real name is Donald.
But Jared, we already bought the t-shirts. I can't take these back. It was an online order.
What is that atrocity? I thought we were going to replace the name Pied Piper. I thought it was just a placeholder.
Placeholder would honestly be a better name than Pied Piper.
Richard, I've actually been holding off telling people that I'm the co-founder of Pied Piper because, frankly, it's a little embarrassing.
Okay, well, just to remind you, you are not the co-founder, so please don't tell anyone.
Richard, take Aviato. That's not a name that I found. It's a name that found me on a vision quest. Something that you should do.
No, I'm not gonna eat a bunch of drugs and sit out in the desert and hope some name randomly pops in my head.
Well, then I question your leadership.
Aviato, I apologize. It's even funnier.
Aviato.
He says it with like a little accent too.
Yeah, so that was pretty much all the characters. That was like the core.
Yeah, for sure.
Jared is the one. Well, I don't have to explain all that, but so perfect.
Yeah, I love the sarcastic tone in this, and Guilfoyle really drives it. But Dinesh has a little bit, like Ehrlich has a little bit, and it's just very funny, like raw humor that is fitting, I think, for the characters and who they are, and the brainiac kind of like too smart for their own good type of like, that kind of humor. The little bit of like trash talking they do, it's pretty good.
And you saw it right there perfectly when Ehrlich was saying that he is afraid to even tell people as a co-founder, and then Richard's like, well, you're not, and he like fades off talking to him. It's like, I don't want the confrontation, but also like, and then Jared just being so deadpan, like, I looked it up and it's about a predatory flautist, and it's just like, matter of fact, this is it.
Yeah.
The characters are so great.
Yeah,
it's got all that going for it.
Yeah. I feel like before I even got really into the plot, like the first time I saw an episode of this, the characters are what like really drew me in.
Yeah.
And I didn't even like start to follow it, also because it's like kind of smart at points. So I was like, I don't even care what they're talking about. They're just funny, like the dynamic between them.
Yeah. Yeah, the characters are like a quick grab and
Yeah.
you get really hooked right away from that.
So something else that stood out to me about this show is the writing, but more specifically how it's entertaining, it's really funny, the characters are great, but it's also really smart and not in like the pretentious sort of way. Like they're just, I feel like I learned things from it, just about this whole like lifestyle that is in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And even the writing of the algorithm, everything that they have to make, the characters have to make, the writers have to come up with.
Sure.
So it's impressive, especially because I looked it up, and the metric that they like reference a lot, called the Wiseman score, I think that's how you
Yeah.
pronounce it, that was completely made up just for the show. But the way they talk about it so much.
I read the show sheet and I was like, oh, I thought that was like the
Yeah.
real thing.
Notes,
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a Stanford professor make it up for them, just at their request. So
I think that's perfect because the whole, like we said, the Silicon Valley startup thing, but the fact that they have this like compression algorithm is a very funny premise. You know, it makes sense. It's exactly what like the digital revolution and everything needs, right? Is they're always trying to get more data in a smaller space and like faster and all this stuff. And like it's just perfect. And then to have it like be this like national standard that they're trying to beat is brilliant, right? Like that's like a perfect scenario to put these characters in, and like that's kind of their goal, is to beat the score, and like that can like catapult their company forward if they can like beat it, you know. And it's just I think it's really a smart way to like present this story, you know. So
and that even boils down to like the finale is them trying to, the finale of the first season is them trying to beat the score in front of like a live audience.
at like HuliCon or whatever.
Yeah. And and then also the writing of like different well, I guess this goes back to the characters though. Like one person that we haven't talked about or seen is Big Head, who's just like, he's the dumb one, but he's wildly rich and has a job where he just drinks big gulps all day.
Yeah.
I think the way they wrote each specific character is like you said, they're sarcastic, but they're all so different.
Yeah.
Like,
you got a good spectrum of
exactly. Like, I've never been to Silicon Valley. I've never worked in it, but I'm sure everyone is based on people.
Oh yeah.
There, I'm sure there's tons of yeah, man, I don't really know what's going on, but I got this sweet setup. Like Big Head, he's just like,
right.
He hangs out on the roof of Huli all day with.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of almost a little poke at like, you know, the Google like campus,
Yes.
where they've got the bikes and the different like games and all kinds of stuff, and that's like the one that maybe just like got a job there, but is kind of coasting along and just kind of enjoying that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They do a lot of that, like poking at kind of like the Google
Right, I
setup
think-
or those other tech companies.
Yeah, I think they write it, like you said, like almost mockumentary style. It's like, we're just going to make fun of these people because what they do is important, but it's so ridiculous, like how they do it.
Oh yeah. I mean, the writing in general is just, I don't know, it gets kind of go back to story, but there's not a lot of other shows or movies like about anything like this, you know? Even like, what's the Facebook movie?
Oh, the Social Network.
Social Network, and that's like a college drama that they you know what I mean? It's not a Silicon Valley startup, which is like a whole untold world, I guess. But it's so commonplace also just because we use all the tech that comes out of it. So we're so used to Google and like the Google campus, and we hear about that stuff, but we don't actually see like the inner workings, and that's why the show's unique, and they write it just like perfect, I think. Yeah.
It's like stuff they wouldn't want you to know.
Yeah,
Like, the tech
exactly.
companies, like they want it to stay a secret.
Right.
Yeah.
This show is kind of just like masking it in a
Yeah.
sitcom.
Yeah, it's like a behind the scenes of the tech company, the tech world.
I saw actually when I was looking stuff up for this that I guess Elon Musk doesn't like this show and said it's inaccurate. Like that's not what it's like at all. Like they're mocking us. And then
Exactly.
Bill Gates though was like, well, I actually related a lot to it. Like this is pretty true. And
Yeah.
then the guy who plays Ehrlich like responded to everything and was like, if you don't think our show is funny, you're just not comfortable being like the center of the joke because like you are this show.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Yeah. Elon Musk takes himself a little too serious, and
Right.
I think, because exactly like Ehrlich, the real guy, the actor said, it is them, and they're just like, oh, they're making fun of us.
Right.
But they're a little too smart and don't have enough of a sense of humor to say
Maybe,
like,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
it's all good fun.
Oh god.
And it has the same structure as like any other half-hour comedy, but I think this is one of like the few that are out there that like you couldn't really just come in on like a random episode because they do carry through a
Yeah.
lot of the storylines.
Oh, yeah.
It's something that really only pays off if you watch the whole thing.
Sure, yeah.
Because you appreciate it a lot more.
Another thing that they do kind of episode to episode, and it goes with the writing, is in normal shows, like the team who you're rooting for, usually, unless it's Game of Thrones, usually like pulls through in the end. Every episode seems to end on a cliffhanger where they've screwed up, like
Big time, yeah.
like every episode's like, oh, we completely screwed our whole business because of this, and that's like how it carries into the next one, and it's figuring that out. You think you get it, and they mess up again, which is a funny twist, having them always just mess up when you think they're always smart and right.
Right. The trials and tribulations of a startup. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
perfect, yeah.
Especially for like someone like Richard, who like he can't handle messing up at all. Like he has meltdowns and he's always at the doctor. He's like, I think I'm having an anxiety attack.
Oh, the doctor is hilarious too. Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique show. And like you said earlier, the fact that it's on HBO, they can really kind of push the envelope a little bit with just some of the jokes, some of the content. It's not a very like raunchy show.
No.
But it's just like adult like jokes and humor and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, any adult would probably enjoy the comedy and kind of like the behind the scenes look at this like tech world. But yeah, being on HBO, they can really kind of go wherever they want with it, and you know, they got the like the bromance that they like poke fun at each other, and just all the different jokes that they write in. It's pretty good.
There's definitely a good amount of toilet humor, but I mean,
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
It's a matter of if you like that. Like, if you're just like, this is a joke, I'm sure these people don't really think this, then you'll love it. Like
that and like sarcasm, and like
Exactly.
that's if you're into the like think that's kind of can be funny, and you know, like the premise of this show, then
And in
You'd
the
like it.
context of the show, it makes sense that that's a lot of the humor because was it 4 guys? 4
Yeah,
guys
living
in a
together.
living room, like for most of the show,
Yeah.
working in like the same space. So
Right.
like, there would be jokes
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. Like it's funny.
and like razzing each other and
Yeah.
stuff. Like that's exactly.
And
what you'd
it's
expect.
funny, the only person that is completely smart, plays it straight, just like gets everything is the like assistant vice
Oh, yeah.
president, the woman that they all like meet all the time, and they
Yeah,
like
I
ask
forget
her,
her name,
but she's like just constantly like even keeled and like, no, you're doing the wrong thing, do this, do that.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
her boss is kind of crazy. She's like a really odd, matter of fact, like
Yeah. That's I don't know. That's like a nice secondary characters that come in and kind of
Yeah.
change the dynamic and like help kind of craft where they're headed and stuff. So yeah.
yeah. Mike Judge created it.
Oh really?
Yeah,
He did King of the Hill, didn't
King
he?
of the Hill and
Yeah.
Beavis and Butthead.
Oh, nice.
He's a legend.
So I have a clip of one of my favorite scenes in like the whole show, and then we can talk about if you guys have some favorite funny moments. But it's also just great at showing some of the absurd comedy in this show.
Hi, I'd like to talk to you about a company called Pied Piper. What does it do? Good question. Maybe you can help us find an answer. What if Pied Piper was an app that could attract rodents? You know, like the fairy tale for purposes of extermination or to feed your pet snake. We're not here to tell you what to do with your rats. We're here to get you rats stat. Would you be very interested, somewhat interested, or not interested? Which one? Which one? Which one? You've heard the phrase, time to pay the piper, right? What if there was an app called Pied Piper that could tell you to a statistical degree of certainty whether you were going to heaven or hell? Very interested, somewhat interested, not interested. Which one? Which one? Which one? How much would it be worth to you if I told you I had a GPS app called Pied Piper tracking the location of your child? I can follow your child anywhere, and there is nothing you can do to stop me. Most missing children are never found. Interested, very interested, or very interested.
Have any weapons or drugs on your person at this time?
Why, yes. Yes, I do.
Let's go. Adderall. This is a highly controlled substance. Are these yours?
No, those belong to an underage kid that I brought to my house.
Yeah, sir. I'm gonna have to ask you to come with me.
It's a kind invitation, but I have too much to do. I'm pivoting.
Let's go now.
No! I'm pivoting. I'm pivoting.
He's out of his tree right there.
So if we were gonna pick like favorite moments, I can't think of a specific thing, but really anything with Jared, with him. He is just constantly hysterical. And that was him obviously on Adderall, but like when he's not, like in the first scene we watched where he's just like, I just want you to know. He's just
very matter of fact.
Yeah, and so deadpan and dry, it's hysterical to me.
I would have to say the Guilfoyle sarcasm, like in the first clip we watched. he's just like, it's got all that going for it, and I still hate it. That gets me. So
yeah, there's this awesome scene where Guilfoyle has to build the server in the garage, and it's just like a 10-minute Guilfoyle clip, and it's just so great. And then there's Ehrlich is just always funny. He's always just like, doesn't know what he's saying. Very Michael Scott-esque, where he's just like, he says something and everyone's you're saying the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the middle out compression breakthrough is also a pretty good part.
Yeah, I think Ehrlich is the one that benefits the most from being on HBO. With no boundaries.
Right.
Yeah, so like,
and that's kind of his character, to just kind of be like a little bit obscene and like out of control.
That scene kind of shows perfectly like what you were talking about. It's like they're going a little above. It's about him being whacked out on Adderall, and he's
still like taking like a survey.
Yeah.
Which that also makes me think, like when you say Elon Musk doesn't like it, that happens. That has to happen when you're like, they have this test group,
Maybe
and they're
not
like,
to that extreme,
right?
but
Not
basically.
that extreme, yeah. But it's like, okay, now if I told you we could fly you on a commercial flight to Mars, would you do it? Would you be for that?
So I'm interested.
That's so great.
Very interested or very interested?
So great.
And I like too that I feel like that scene really shows it, that like the scenarios are a lot of the times like really over the top and ridiculous, but probably still happen. And the characters most of the time will stay like, especially usually Jared, except for like, even in this scene actually, even though he's on Adderall, he's still very like serious and like get to the point, like this is business, even though it's ridiculous.
And he always wears that zip-up fleece vest.
Yeah.
Oh God. It's a very funny show.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
So I think season 6 just started or is about to start.
I think it just started.
Just started, and that's the final season. So if you wait a couple weeks, you can just binge the whole thing, start to finish.
Sign me up.
Sure. Yeah.
Gotta finish it. Gotta catch up. All right, well, we'll be right back with The Good Place. Welcome back. We're moving right along to talk about The Good Place on NBC.
Tell us about it. I've seen one episode.
You have seen some of it.
very first episode. That's it.
Perfect.
Oh, that's good. Oh man, this was a new find for me, like maybe a year or two ago, and I love it. I think it's very witty. But just to give viewers a little bit of background, basically, The Good Place. These 4 people die and go to like heaven or hell. And the place that they end up in this show is, they call it the good place. So it turns out that this is a version of hell where they're supposed to think that they're in a place of, like, they made it to heaven, it's all good, and then they're kind of secretly being tortured by like their like greatest vices, right? So there's 4 different characters that are the main ones: Eleanor, Chidi, Jason, and what's Tahani. Yes. So those 4, they're kind of like pitted against each other. They have these, like I said, vices that they kind of led to their demise on Earth and why they would be considered like bad people. And there is a like demon who is in charge of torturing them and who creates this good place. And basically it's like a whole simulation of a new way to torture like people in the afterlife. However, throughout the course of the season, the first season at least, these people in the good place, as they're being tortured, actually become better people. And it kind of starts to break first the demon's kind of view on humans, and he thinks they're all terrible and like they deserve to be tortured. And basically they show that their humans are capable of improvement and being better people, and like in the right circumstance can improve. So that's kind of like the big turnaround, and there's lots of goofy scenes and silly stuff, and it's a pretty good show. Did that kind of cover it?
Yeah.
You think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. But like the characters think for like most of the first season, like they think they're in the good place. So like that.
Yeah,
kind
they
of
think
plays
it's
into
paradise.
Yeah, they're
but
unaware.
they like feel like Eleanor thinks that she like isn't supposed to be there because she's like, I'm not like a good person, or this is the wrong thing for me. So, but she doesn't want to leave paradise and go to hell. So it's just kind of them all figuring it out, and yeah, it's pretty interesting. Very different premise.
Yeah, definitely. So I have a clip that kind of follows that up.
Yeah, I think the clip might help orientate you because it's a
'Cause
very
it says
lighthearted
orientation.
Right.
Yep.
But it's a very lighthearted show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your first day in the afterlife. You were all, simply put, good people. But how do we know that you were good? How are we sure? During your time on Earth, every one of your actions had a positive or a negative value, depending on how much good or bad that action put into the universe. Every sandwich you ate, every time you bought a magazine, every single thing you did had an effect that rippled out over time and ultimately created some amount of good or bad. You know how some people pull into the breakdown lane when there's traffic and they think to themselves, who cares? No one's watching. We were watching. Surprise. Anyway, when your time on Earth has ended, we calculate the total value of your life using our perfectly accurate measuring system. Only the people with the very highest scores, the true cream of the crop, get to come here, to the good place. What happens to everyone else, you ask? Don't worry about it. The point is, you are here because you lived one of the very best lives that could be lived. And you won't be alone. Your true soulmate is here too. That's right, soulmates are real. One of the other people in your neighborhood is your actual soulmate, and you will spend eternity together. So welcome to eternal happiness. Welcome to the good place. Sponsored by otters holding hands while they sleep. You know the way you feel when you see a picture of 2 otters holding hands? That's how you're going to feel every day.
So that clip's a good, that's kind of the lie that he's weaving to get everyone to think that they're like in this paradise, and in actuality, all the other people are just like a pawn in the scheme of torturing those four. So, and then that guy was Michael. He's the demon who's kind of in charge. Actually, I think they call him an architect.
Yeah.
It's like a job you have to torture humans and create new ways. So he's the architect of the Good Place world, and he's torturing those four that you saw there. So
So
do you have any questions about it? Or does
you
that
should ask.
Oh, go ahead.
No, but I know it is created and produced and show run by a personal favorite of mine, Michael Schur. The Office, Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. How does it compare to those? Like, he's very specific with his comedy. It's a little slapsticky, like we were talking about Parks and Rec.
I feel like this is a little bit more witty than the other shows. You got to take that humor, but then if you kind of know Kristen Bell and her kind of, she's kind of got that little bit of sarcasm, witty, and kind of like ridiculousness. But yeah, it's it's hard to pinpoint how to describe like comedy, but yeah, it's somewhere in there. There's a lot of like smart humor, I think, that kind of, I don't know, it's just a little different. I don't know, do you have?
I agree that it's definitely very witty.
Yeah.
I think if I had to like compare it to one of his shows, I would say it's like Leslie Knope humor, but a little smarter. Less like just like pure wholesome goofiness and a little more like bite to it.
Yeah.
Especially with Kristen Bell. And I think it's like, it's obviously a sitcom, but it's like literally like a situational comedy. Like they're in the Good Place, so a lot of the comedy comes from the fact that like they can't swear. Every time she tries, like it says like fork or like shirt instead of the other one. But it flows, like you don't even like realize it after a while because it's just
she does a great job. She just you gotta be forking shirting me.
Yeah. And then even like if you read some of the things in the video where like the things you did were either bad or good, like using Facebook as a verb is considered bad. So like you're gonna go to the bad place if you do that too many times. Or like
he said, like if you pull over on the like side of the just like annoying things that people do, they like make a big deal out of it. It's kind of like the premise is kind of like dark almost, like oh, if you told someone it's about hell and this like world that someone creates that they're tricking someone, like it sounds like kind of dark, but it's just a very lighthearted, and they like mix in these like ridiculous like there's no boundaries to it because it's the afterlife, there's magic. There's this one character, Janet, who is like an assistant in the afterlife, and basically she can like just conjure anything, or like I want a donut, boom, you know what I mean? And like so they have her doing ridiculous things, and it's just a very unique like premise again. So I don't know.
So what stands out the most? Is it the witty writing? Is it like Kristen Bell and Ted Danson's acting? Is it the actual like situations that they come up with?
I think it's Kristen Bell's character is probably my favorite draw. She's very almost like aggressive about like figuring it out, or like what she's gonna do next. She's very determined. Like her character was like, I don't know, didn't her like mom abandon her, and she like grew up on her own. It was kind of like a tough life, and like she kind of plays like I was like the hot one and like all this stuff, and then she's kind of like got a little chip on her shoulder, and then in the afterlife she's trying to figure out like how she got there, and then how to like stay under the radar, and she doesn't want to ruin the whole Good Place because she's not supposed to be there, so her like whole morality thing gets questioned, and she's just a funny character that probably does it for me at least.
And I think it's cool that for her and other characters, the show starts in the good place. Like, it literally starts with her opening her eyes because she just died.
Yeah.
But then throughout the show, you see like flashbacks to them like in real life and what they were like. But for me, I'd say my favorite is Janet. She's she's basically like Alexa with a body. Like, hey Alexa, can you get me this?
Exactly. That's
She's
a good one.
so good. Like, she's just the best. Her delivery and everything is just, and she's very monotone the whole time. But there's not too much else to say about her. She's just perfect. And I think the character development, kind of what you started to say, is there are some characters that you eventually know are bad. They're there to like torture, but even some of them, like, you learn more about them, and like they kind of make it funny almost, even though they're doing horrible things. Like, it'll show them like in the office in the bad place, and they're like, oh, like I have to go burn someone's like skin off in a few minutes. Like, I don't have time for this. Like, they're like, it's very lighthearted even when they're talking about demons.
Yeah.
And some of them even start to kind of change a little bit themselves, which is cool.
Yeah.
So it's also like kind of wholesome sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
I think all the characters, so Chidi is like this indecisive person. That was like his vice. He's an ethics professor, so it's like kind of funny that he struggles with this. So it's like his whole thing, and he'd be like, do I want a muffin or a donut? And he like, well, there's a million reasons why I would choose the muffin. And like, he kind of goes through that kind of stuff all the time. Eleanor has that like chip on her shoulder that I was talking about. Tahani is like very petty. She's like kind of famous. She was like a B-list like celebrity
like
or
a
something.
Kardashian,
Yeah, like a
like,
Kardashian type. And she's like, I would never wear that, or like, you can't have that at a party or something like that. And then Jason is basically he's from Florida, and he loves Blake Bortles. He's like, go Jags, like all the time.
I knew, I had heard there was a Blake Bortles like tie-in.
And later seasons, spoiler, they're like, oh, Jason, Blake Bortles got traded. And like, he's like, oh my God. So it's like that kind of dumb humor that like they bring in. But those kind of are the vices that they're all trying to like hide, but also keep getting faced with, and like that's how they're being tortured through those. And that's why they like kind of get better actually as the season goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So, not having seen anything, but from what you're describing, do you see I am picking up similarities to specific characters in like Parks and Rec, like the Tom Haverford and the petty person? It's like
kind of like that. I can see that match. Yeah.
And then just the saying like forking and shirt reminds me of a lot of Leslie Knope. Because she would kind of say
Leslie Knope, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Except a little bit more like edgy, like
it's an edgy Leslie.
Like you said,
Leslie
Knope
she's
was so
very
wholesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that just. I feel like without. I mean, I saw like 20 minutes or 22 minutes. I've seen one episode.
Yeah.
I feel like it's something I would like because it's just the whole Michael Schur thing. It's just like his brand of comedy, where he tweaks it. Like Brooklyn Nine-Nine is different than The Office, which is different than Parks and Rec, and now this. I just feel like there's similarities, but he changes stuff up just enough.
Yeah, and there's definitely, I feel like, also some Jake Peralta humor in it. Like him and Leslie are kind of, it's almost like if you combined them.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of the characters kind of talk like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. If I had to pick a favorite moment, I don't even know if it's in the first season, but I don't care. It's I don't know if I'll do it. It'll be funny if I say it.
Spoiler alert.
I don't know if it'll be funny if I say like describe it, but basically the demon's trying to tell them, like explain the universe to them, and he says it's it can all be described in the word Jeremy Bearimy, like that's, and it's like a smart, humorous way to like the I in Bearimy is Tuesdays in July, and like he's like describing time in the universe with like this word. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, but it's just ridiculous, and it's like a stupid word. Or Janet has a Oh well, never mind. I don't want to get too far into the next season because there's a lot.
Yeah.
Some of that like more advanced like humor where they're not confined to just that one thing because they kind of get into the universe stuff, and more of the afterlife things and the demons and everything. So they kind of can do whatever they want because they have that limitlessness. But yeah, it's very funny.
So this is on Netflix right now, correct? Or is it Hulu?
It's on Netflix and Hulu.
Yeah,
Okay.
the newest season's on
But
Hulu.
we'll be probably going to Peacock once that comes up, right?
Probably.
So my question is, what is the bingeability of it? Like, if you sit down, how easy is it to just like fire through it? Because I feel like Parks and Rec, you can just fire through.
Oh, I would say as easy as Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
I watched the first season in one day when I
Yeah,
was
it
sick.
might even be easier. I think there might be less episodes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it feels so short.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, I watched
and I
the
know
first
this is the last season, right? So
Yeah.
how many are there? 4?
4.
Oh yeah. So that seems like that's
Yeah, it's real
It's
quick.
very easy. And it has really
coming in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Yeah. It has really good plot twists too for a comedy
Mm.
and really good cliffhangers. So you want to keep watching. It's not just
Yeah.
like a funny show. It also is like really gripping.
Yeah.
Odd. Like,
It's another one of those that you kind of have to watch in succession. It's not like a sitcom you can just.
Yeah,
turn on. I mean, you could.
definitely.
It'd be okay, but there's definitely a story
Yeah.
line.
yeah. Fun fact. Michael Schur based this off of Lost.
Oh really?
Yeah, like when he was thinking about it, he met up with like one of the creators of Lost and was like, I have an idea for a show, but like I just want it to like have future storylines. Like take the plot twist of Lost, but like now make it a show.
Interesting.
Lost. I never get into that.
No, me neither.
I did when I was younger, and then I skipped to the end because I didn't want to like finish the rest of the show, and the ending was disappointing.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I remember seeing some of it, but I don't know, it was confusing.
I had always heard it was just so like out there, and
It is.
they really tried to have twists and stuff, and I don't know.
It worked. The first few seasons were really good. Like the twists and everything were really good, but then I think they had like a lot of seasons, and there was only so much you could do
Yeah.
with their premise.
It was like 20 episodes a season, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It also really scared me as a kid. I had nightmares.
That's why
That's a strange
it's interesting because that was like a show people would binge, especially on DVD, that was on a network, and now everything's really changing because no one wants to sit around for like 22 episodes.
Yeah.
So now it's like, I mean, you're getting some that are 6, some that are like Mindhunter's like 8. It's interesting.
See, that's funny because I guess I'd agree with you. You don't want to sit around for 22 episodes, but I also feel like 8 or 10. I'm like, I want more. You know, like I don't know what the
Yeah.
sweet spot is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it depends. Like if they had 20 episodes of Stranger Things for a season, I'd be all in. But like
Yeah.
some shows, like when
That
I
would be
want to get into
epic.
them, I looked at like how many episodes are in like one season, and I'm like, oh gosh, it's
Yeah.
gonna take so long to get to season
Yeah.
2.
Yeah. It's daunting. But I was thinking today, it is streaming season. It is 20 degrees out. There's no reason
true.
no reason to go outside. Just after work, on the weekends, just watch TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, now's the time to do it. Like the second season of Good Place, I watched a few weeks ago when I was homesick, and I finished it in like the morning. It was really sad. It was sad,
Okay. Interesting.
but worth it, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, I highly recommend it. It's
It's
a very good show. Definitely a unique like sitcom-y, like right up there with the Parks and Rec and The Office and all those. So
Yeah. I dare to say it's innovative in a time where a lot of TV shows were kind of repeating a
yes,
concept.
I agree.
I think it was proof that there was still good ideas out there.
Yeah,
We just had to find them.
yeah, I agree with that. Definitely refreshing in that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
All right. Sweet.
Get a little synopsis there.
There you go. Did we
Our
sell
work
you?
here is
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll take a quick break, and then we'll talk about Stephen King when we get back. Welcome back. We're talking about Stephen King now. So we're going to take a look at 2 trailers of a show called The Outsider, which will be on HBO, and a movie In the Tall Grass, which is on Netflix now. So we're going to check those out.
Come on, Jimmy, wait for your pitch, pal. Just a single, man. Come to see me. Walk's as good as a hit.
Terrence Maitland, I'm arresting you for the murder of Frankie Peterson.
For the what?
I'm as baffled by this conflicting evidence as you are. His prints are all over the crime scene. The TV footage puts him 60 miles away.
He can't have been in 2 places at once. You know me. I didn't kill that kid, Ralph.
Do you see how strange this is?
What would make someone do such a thing?
He didn't do it.
I have no tolerance for the unexplainable.
Well then, sir, you'll have no tolerance for me. Answer me this. Do you think Terry Maitland killed that boy?
If he didn't do it, someone else did. Someone else did. Someone else did.
Jessa.
Did you hear that?
Someone out there? Cal?
Becky!
Something's not right about this. I think we should head back to the road.
Becky?
Travis?
Who are you? What's going on? I came looking for you! What?
How did you get here before us?
I don't know.
My boy, he's lost in here too.
This is nuts!
It's only a field.
What's happening? He went the other way!
I'm never gonna find her.
You can find things, but it's easier once they're dead.
How long have we been here?
I'm not sure.
That sounded like me.
This field doesn't make any sense. I'll name one thing in here that does.
You think this is just chance? We're all here for a reason.
Becky!
Oh my God.
It's grass. It's just grass.
All right, yeah, it's the season of Stephen King. He has a lot of stuff coming out or
Yeah.
that's already out.
Yeah.
It's wild. Even we were saying yesterday, the show that you're in, the Castle Rock, that's Stephen King.
Yeah.
There's these 2. There's a whole bunch.
It just came out in like September.
Yeah, there's all
Sleep
kinds of
came
stuff.
out
Yep, Dr.
this past
Sleep.
weekend.
Right. So we were talking about this yesterday. And we were like, we should just bring it up on the show here today because there's so many different.
Good for Stephen King.
Yeah.
He really needed a.
We were
a
saying
break.
too, it's Netflix, it's Amazon, it's HBO. There's like stuff all over the place.
Hulu.
Hulu.
Castle Rock's a Hulu original.
Movie studios.
Yeah, movie
like,
studios.
It's crazy. So that's pretty cool. And I don't want to jump ahead, but one thing we were talking about that I want to get your opinion on is.
You guys were talking without me?
Well, you were across the hall. The fine line between a thriller and like a horror.
Okay.
You know, and it's hard because some people don't like to be like freaked out or scared or like the goriness is kind of like a very tangible. If it's like bloody and gory, you can be like, okay, that's like gross in itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, where does that creepiness turn from scared, and where is it like thriller? Like, I can't wait to see what's gonna happen.
Right.
On the edge of my
so
seat.
I would say like the goriness, if someone gets like their body taken over, that's horror. So like.
So the outsider there, that to me looked more thriller.
Yes, much more
it's
thriller.
Like, oh, what's gonna happen? You hope that he doesn't.
I think
get
that was an
blamed
example
for
of a
something.
thriller and a horror.
Right. Well, yeah. And but so you're hoping that he doesn't get like wrongly accused of something,
Right.
and like that makes it like you're at the edge of your seat, and all the evidence that comes to light. I don't know. None of us have seen these, but I'm just guessing that like that's the kind of journey you go on where you're like, what's happening, and like what is the deal? It's almost like a mystery. Whereas the thriller, for me at least, is more that like. I don't know, that like creepy scenario or the like jump scare. Look over your
Wait, you mean
shoulder.
horror?
Horror, yeah.
Okay.
Is that like creepy scenario,
Yeah,
jump
so-
scare, kind of look over your shoulder, or like twisted view on something? You know what I mean? More like the grass.
So in the
to
tall grass one, when the kid's sitting down, and he's like, "I'm never gonna be able to find them," and then the little creepy kid shows up behind him, that's horror.
Yeah.
But when it's like the little girl in the Outsiders one just staring out her window, and her mom's like, "What is happening? What's going on?" And then there's a couple scenes of a guy. It's raining, and a guy is just standing there in like a rain jacket. That's more thriller to me. That's like, who is this person?
Yeah.
Like we see it. I think horror, you don't see it, and then you jump scares you.
Yeah. What about the like sci-fi piece? So like a monster or.
So like Stranger Things, that's thriller to me.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, like exactly like Stranger Things or. Did you see what's the movie with John Krasinski and
The Quiet Place.
The Quiet
Place, thriller.
Yeah.
That's a thriller.
Actually.
Or is
It's
it?
both.
It's both. Boom.
Yeah.
I did see it. Yeah, there was a monster. So
Right, like in the
and it
house, there was like
constant
that
jump
creepy.
scares. Yeah.
So yeah, how do you qualify that? Now, my other possible theory is that it can be both, or it depends on the viewer.
It does. That's true.
Right? Like something I see might be like, oh, that's like kind of a thriller thing, but like you guys might be like, oh my god, that's just like.
Well, I think like,
creepy
did you
or-
see it? It to me is a horror movie.
I haven't seen it.
It's a creepy clown. You see him. Well, I guess this is kind of contradicting what I said before, but you know there's this clown, and it's building up, and you're trying to figure it out, and then like there's a floating balloon, and it's like, what is that?
Yeah.
So like, in It, came out like 3 years ago, and this isn't like important. There's this kid sitting in a library, and he's new, he's a loner, so he's flipping through like this history of the town they live in, going through, and every picture of like this old, like a witch burning, they zoom in, and in the tree there's a clown face, and then he goes to something
weird.
else, zoom in, and there's a clown standing in the middle, and then a balloon floats by, and no one sees it but him, and he follows it. So that's like the horror. That's the whole setup.
Yeah.
And then he follows it, jump scare. So
Right,
like
right,
that's
right,
the
right.
thriller to me is like, I know this guy is trying to get me and he's chasing me. You know?
See, I'll give you another scenario. What if it's terrorizing versus mystery?
I think terrorizing is thriller.
Horror.
Wait, what
if
do you
you're
mean?
being like pursued, or you're like in a house and the phone calls, get out of the house, like you're being terrorized, right? Like
But
the
do you
character
know
is being,
what it is?
I don't know.
So I'm saying, like, have you seen Fear with Mark Wahlberg? He like
The Happening?
no Fear.
Oh.
It's like older. It's from the 90s, but he's younger, and he falls in love with like Reese Witherspoon, I want to say.
Oh, I think I have seen that.
So
it's like a house. And,
and the dad is like, you can't date my daughter, and he's a psycho, so he starts terrorizing the family in their house.
This is a horror movie.
No, that's a thriller.
We seem to have ourselves in an impasse.
Yeah, but but they knew it was him, is what I'm saying. Horror movie is Paranormal Activity. You don't know what's causing this. That's what I think.
That's opposite of what we just said with the grass in the field to be terrorizing them as like a horror thing.
But
And
you don't
then,
know what it is.
The mystery would be, did he kill him or did he not?
We might be saying the same thing.
That's what I'm saying to you. What do you think?
This is so overwhelming. I thought I knew, and now I have no idea. Okay. I feel like it definitely depends on the person, but for me, if I had to describe it, thriller would be like you're creeped out and you like want to know, but you're never really like jumping or like screaming or like getting like scared. It's more of just like, ooh, this is creepy. Like this is suspenseful.
Suspenseful.
And then
yeah,
I think
good word.
horror is when like I'm actively screaming, and then when I leave the theater, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have trouble sleeping tonight.
Okay.
And it's usually, for me, like the horror stuff is usually like paranormal or like a monster or something. Because even when it's like Halloween, I feel like is a thriller. Even though it's really scary, I feel like it's a thriller because it's just a person with a knife. And you always kind of like what you said.
Yeah,
you see him
you see him.
coming. He's really scary, but like you see him on the street, so it's kind of like, all right, it's really scary, but I know it's Michael Myers.
Right.
He's outside right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I just like speaking of Stephen King, I just recently watched The Shining around Halloween. That to me is a thriller. Oh wait.
Horror.
Oh man. No, as I said thriller, I was like, wait, you actually don't really know what's going on, and so maybe it is horror. Maybe I have that confused of what I was saying.
But then I think that's what plays into like the viewer and how like each person feels, because I know most people don't think The Shining, or most people I've talked to don't think The Shining is really scary. I watched it and I was like very scared.
I think I've heard people, I listened to a podcast about The Shining after I watched it, and one of the guys said like in 1980 that was the scariest thing anyone had ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, but now so many different ideas but
yeah.
So what about when you get like creeped out? Whether it's like a scenario that you're not sure. What's the Us?
Yep.
I haven't seen Us.
Us and Get Out.
Get Out's a thriller to me.
Yes.
Okay, but I guess if it makes you like cringe because of the creepiness or the like, oh, I can't even believe that right now, that to me is like more the horror.
Yeah, I guess
where a thriller is you're trying to figure something out.
An old whodunit.
Well, not just that. It could be like, yeah, whodunit, where are they, what is it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Figure something out versus. That's why I said the terrorizing thing, because it's like it like creeps you out that like that person is going through this crazy thing or in a scenario that's like so twisted that it's like unsettling, right? That's the horror. And that's why I said terrorize, because it's like, oh no, I don't want to, don't tell me that that's what that person's going through right now, because that's terrifying to me.
What would you say The Happening is?
I've never seen it.
I saw it in the theater with you.
Oh, The Happening. The Happening is a
horrible movie.
Yes. So.
All right, here's a good one, The Sixth Sense.
I See Dead People. That one.
Yes. Have you seen it?
I don't think I've ever sat down and watched the whole thing.
Have you seen The Sixth Sense?
No, but I feel like I would say it's a thriller from what I know about it.
Yeah, I feel like that one's a thriller too. The Happening is a horror movie.
Yeah, because you don't know what it is.
Well, because they're being terrorized by the world, and there's like these horrible situations, like they crash a perfectly good red Jeep into a tree.
That was all you cared about. We walked out and
So
we were
it's
like,
a horror movie.
Right.
So it was like, we walked out of the theater and we were like, oh, that wasn't good. That was really bad. And you just go, they're in the Jeep.
Come on. It's like when the dog
So
dies.
yeah. So I would say, I don't know. From the trailers, I would say In the Tall Grass seems like a horror, and The Outsider seems like a thriller.
Okay.
Did we just do that whole conversation? We all just agreed the whole time on those.
No, we were trying to describe it. It's hard to put it to words. What
Okay.
the distinguish.
I have a final
Light bulb.
thought on this.
Perfect.
You're gonna have
Light
to put a
bulb.
little
This might be
light
my
bulb
opinion.
above your head.
Okay, I think a thriller is more likely to have also just a storyline than a horror. A horror movie is designed just to scare people, I kind of think, most of the time.
Yeah.
A thriller, like The Outsider, seems to have a genuine storyline with plot line. Yeah, twists, mysteries, something at the end that you might be like, whoa, I didn't see that coming, where most horror movies don't really have to do that. Like in
Right.
The Conjuring, you know it's just someone got possessed.
Right.
And that's why it's scary.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
the only plot.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
And we could also say that a lot of these movies probably are both, right?
Right.
If you combine these like really intense plot lines and plot twists and crazy scenarios with like the scariness of demons and
Yeah.
terrorizing and all this stuff, then you've got pretty dynamic film.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
not-
when they're
or
really
show.
good.
Or show.
Let us know in the comments. What do you think?
Let's start a debate.
Yeah.
We opened up a can of worms.
Yeah, we really did. Well, anyways, these Stephen Kings are going to be all that. It's going to be scary. There's going to be some thrillers. It's all good stuff. It all looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Horror has a little psychological aspect to it. Like you were saying, like you're like, I'm gonna have trouble sleeping. It's like it messes with your brain a little bit. You're like, maybe I don't want to go get my lawnmower out of my shed right now because I watched that movie last night.
Yes.
Where a thriller is, you're just like sizing people up. You're like, I don't trust that person.
Yeah.
All right, I'll go with that.
Yeah.
I don't like the cut of your jib.
Oh God.
And he also has, not including Dr. Sleep and Castle Rock and It and everything that already came out, he has 23 of his books being turned into a TV show or a movie in the next year.
That's insane.
So that's a lot.
Yeah.
And that's not even half of his catalog of like books.
Right, yeah.
He has like 62 books,
Well,
I think.
not to mention all the stuff that has been.
Yeah.
Carrie, The Green Mile, The Shining.
Mm-hmm. And they're actually remaking like some of the movies that have already been made.
Yeah.
They're remaking Firestarter, which was with Drew Barrymore.
Oh,
in like the
I've heard
80s
of it.
or
I've never
70s.
seen it.
So they're doing another one.
And they just redid Carrie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And It. That's the
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
one he's done.
I heard that the newest, well, not the newest, It Chapter 1, the one that came out a couple years ago, was his like most successful one.
Book or movie?
Movie. Most successful adaptation. I wonder if it's because like things are, box office obviously is way up. Like, I mean, look at Endgame, but I wonder if it's, they can kind of do more with the effects and everything. Because if
Yeah.
you watch it has some crazy effects when
Oh, yeah.
they meet up with the clown at the end. It's
And they made the clown. I haven't seen the original one, but it just seems like the clown is a lot scarier in this
So
one
is
than in the.
it a horror movie or a?
It's a horror
Yes.
movie. It was so good though.
It's so good.
And yeah, he does this weird thing with his eye. He like, this eye is looking forward and this one goes in. And I saw him on a late night talk show talking about him being really scary, and he just did it. He like can just do it. It's like,
oh yeah, some people, yeah.
yeah. But yeah. Do you know any of the names of anything other than these two, or like?
I did. I should have put them on this.
Sorry to put you on the spot like
I
that.
know that like his really successful like book series, the Dark Tower series, is being turned into something for, I think it's Hulu. So
That's not out yet. I feel like I've seen. Is it Amazon?
Oh, maybe it's Amazon.
I feel like I've seen something that says The Dark
Yeah.
Tower on Amazon.
Yeah. So that's like.
That's
maybe
what I
it's
mean.
already
I didn't know that was
He's
him.
on Hulu, Amazon,
Even CBS,
Netflix.
which isn't even out
HBO,
yet. He has
Netflix.
a show coming out.
Wow.
His like Mr. Mercedes is one of his popular ones. That's going to be something. One of his things like 11/28/16, like it's a
11/28/63.
Yeah, that's already out.
That's on Hulu. That's
something.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about.
Have you seen that?
No, it's about JFK though, right?
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
awesome. I've seen that. He goes back in time and he's just in the 63 like 2 weeks or something before the assassination of JFK. And he tries to prevent it.
But it was the government.
That's a good show.
Oh, The Stand, Salem's Lot. Those are two of the more I just remembered.
Oh, nice.
Which Salem's Lot is a big plot in Castle Rock.
Ooh.
And I'm reading the book now, and it's really scary. A
Castle
book has
Rock?
never Salem's Lot.
Ah.
And a book has like never scared me before, but it freaked me out last night.
Oh, Castle Rock's kind of like a universe, right?
Yeah, they like put a bunch of stuff together.